In Indian symbolism, a mandala is a special design that represents the entire universe. It shows all parts of existence. There are two main types of mandalas, celestial and terrestrial. The celestial mandala represents the spiritual world, where all causes and origins of things are found. It's like a map of the unseen heavenly realms and shows how everything starts and the reasons behind their existence. The terrestrial mandala, on the other hand, represents the physical world we live in. It shows the effects and outcomes of all the causes that begin in the celestial world. This type of mandala is like a map of the earth and everything in it, illustrating how the causes from the celestial realm manifest as physical forms and events around us. So when you look at a mandala, you're seeing a detailed diagram that symbolizes the entire universe, both the spiritual causes and the physical effects. It helps to understand how everything is connected and how different parts of existence interact with each other. It is believed that studying these symbols, which first came to Asia around the beginning of the Christian era, can greatly help in learning the hidden mystical sciences. This study can help a person grow and change, becoming better and more perfect over time. A mandala is a special symbol that represents deeper meanings and ideas. Using symbols to communicate and represent concepts is one of the oldest ways humans have shared knowledge and ideas. By understanding mandalas, people can gain insights into ancient wisdom and spiritual practices. This knowledge can lead to personal transformation, helping individuals become more enlightened and spiritually advanced. The use of symbols like mandalas is an ancient method of communication, allowing people to convey complex ideas and spiritual teachings in a simple, visual form. So when people study mandalas, they are not just looking at pretty designs. They are engaging with a very old language of symbols that can teach them about the universe, spirituality, and their own potential for growth and perfection. This ancient practice of using symbols helps bridge the gap between the physical world and deeper esoteric knowledge, guiding people on their spiritual journey. In ancient times, people faced a challenge when they wanted to talk about things that you can't see or touch, like ideas or sacred concepts. These are things that exist only in our minds, like thoughts, feelings, or beliefs about gods and the universe. Because these ideas are invisible, people had to get creative to share them with others. They couldn't just point to an object or show a picture. Instead, they had to use special methods to express these thoughts and sacred ideas. One way they did this was through stories and myths. By telling stories, they could explain complex ideas in a way that was easier to understand. For example, instead of saying honor or courage directly, they might tell a story about a brave hero. This hero's actions and adventures would show what honor and courage mean. Another way was through symbols. Symbols are objects, pictures, or signs that represent something else. For example, a lion might symbolize strength and bravery, while a dove might symbolize peace. By using symbols, people could communicate ideas that were hard to explain with just words. Rituals and ceremonies were also important. These were special actions performed in a set way. Through rituals, people could express their beliefs and feelings about sacred things. For example, a ceremony might include dancing, singing, or offering gifts to the gods. These actions helped to show respect and devotion in a way that everyone could understand. People wanted to show ideas that you can't see, so they created special symbols. These symbols were like secret codes. Only people who knew how to read them could understand their meaning. As time passed, these secret symbols became more organized. They turned into formal systems and were arranged into special diagrams. These diagrams help people understand and share invisible ideas in a clear way. These symbols and diagrams were like a hidden language, making it easier to explain complex thoughts and concepts. This way, people could communicate these ideas to others who knew the secret code. On the scroll, there were lots of small drawings. If you looked closely, you'd see lots of little lines coming from almost every part of the human body, from the skin, the nerves, the veins, the arteries, and even the big organs like the brain. Here's something really interesting. At the end of each line on the scroll, there was a small drawing of a god or goddess. This means that every part of the body is linked to a different god or goddess. It's like saying your body isn't just a physical thing. Each part, like your hands, feet, heart, and brain, has a special connection to a divine being. This makes our bodies feel even more special and sacred, as if every part of us is protected or guided by a different god or goddess. It's like saying that every piece of us, every part of your body had a special link to something sacred or divine. Think about your hands, your feet, your heart, and even your brain all having their own unique connection to a higher power. This idea is what a special scroll showed. The scroll illustrated that our bodies are not just physical. Each part of us, every little piece, is connected to something spiritual and much bigger than ourselves. This means that our bodies are more than just flesh and bones. They are connected to something divine, showing that there is a sacred element to who we are. This special scroll helps us see that we are part of something much greater, with each part of our body having a special spiritual link. Each nerve had its own god, and they knew them. This idea might be hard for some Western people to believe, but the main point is that the body is like a map of what's inside it. The way our body looks shows what we're capable of spiritually. So when we try to understand ourselves better, we often study this map, which we can call our personality. It's the part of us that shows the hidden potential we have. This personal map is made of different levels and layers of symbols. But some Western scientific ideas don't agree with this. For example, the idea that our genes determine who we are wouldn't make sense to those who study these maps. They believe we're more than just the result of our ancestors. This goes against most esoteric philosophies. It's risky to think that a person's life should just be a repeat of their family's past. Believing that everything about us comes from our ancestors can make it hard for us to become our own person. We shouldn't feel like we have to follow the same path as our family members, especially if they haven't always made the best choices. In many families today, we see that just because someone is related to their parents or siblings, it doesn't mean they'll turn out the same way. When we look at these children, even though they have the same parents, grow up in the same place, live in the same house, and go to the same schools, they're not all alike. Their family history doesn't affect them in the same way. One child might be very outgoing and independent, while another might struggle with serious problems that last a long time. Each person is unique, carrying with them the good and bad things they've done before. We all have to deal with our own issues. Our personalities show us where we've succeeded and where we've failed in the past. We're all a mix of good and bad because nobody's perfect. But if we want to fix our mistakes, we have to understand them. We need to know why they happened and how they're affecting us now. It's like solving a puzzle to become a better person. That's why it's important to see our personality as a whole, like a symbol we can meditate on to understand ourselves better. In religion, symbols are often used to explain things that are hard to put into words. When we talk about divine mysteries or abstract truths that are beyond our understanding, we use symbols to help us grasp them. Today we want to look at how we can study this thing called personality, starting from when we're born. Even though we might not notice it right away, our personality starts to shape who we are from a very young age, maybe even before we turn one. As we grow up, it becomes clear that each of us is unique. And because of our nature and feelings, we'll experience different things in life. Some of these experiences will be good, some tough, and some dangerous. But it's us who create them based on what's going on inside us. There's a connection between what's happening inside us and how we act outside, and our mind and emotions play a big role in bridging that gap. When we're babies, we don't have much control over ourselves. But as we grow up, we realize that one of the important things in life is being able to control ourselves, to be disciplined. If we're not disciplined, it can cause problems for us later on. We can end up making mistakes that we have to deal with. Nowadays, we often see young people struggling with drugs, alcohol, and other problems because they lack discipline and don't think carefully about their actions. But if they learn from their mistakes, they can grow from them. In some parts of the world, like the Orient, people put more emphasis on these ideas. They have a strong connection to their culture and religion, which helps them understand the mysteries of life. But even though different cultures have their own ways of approaching these mysteries, they're all trying to understand the same thing: life and existence. It's easy to see. Two people might talk about the same thing, but use different words. They might use different symbols, but the ideas behind them are similar. This is true for different systems of ethics, or ways of deciding what is right and wrong. All these different ethical systems share one main idea. There's only one right way to do things. It's like how there's only one sun that shines on the whole world. These systems of thought encourage people to think more about themselves. They push us to understand our own nature, our personality, and how we fit together with others. In the end, even though the words and symbols might be different, the core idea is the same. We're all trying to find the right way to live and understand ourselves better. In Hindu culture, there's a special way of studying how people move their hands. They see it as a science. This study looks at the different movements and positions of the hands and what they mean. Hands are not just for doing things, but they also tell a story about a person. In a branch of Buddhism called Shingon, they believe that hands are like symbols. In their sacred books, hands are shown as symbols of both the sky and the earth. This means that hands can represent big ideas about the universe and our place in it. The lines, dots, and marks on the hands are also important. They show how a person is growing and learning, and what they should do in life. By looking at these marks, people can understand more about themselves and their journey. In both Hindu and Shingon Buddhist cultures, the study of hands is a way to connect with deeper truths about life. It helps people to see their strengths, their challenges, and their path forward. This special focus on hands shows that even small details can have big meanings. Anyway, what's important is that people pay close attention to hands. I read a little book once, written by an old Indian wise person. They said that when a doctor is watching a patient, the patient sits down and the doctor just looks at them. After a few minutes, if the doctor doesn't say anything, the patient might start getting restless. They wonder why the doctor isn't doing anything, so they start moving around. They might scratch their ear, fold their hands, move their arms, or shift in their seat. By the time they've done this a few times, the doctor can figure out what's wrong with them. That's all there is to it. Our illnesses are a part of us. They affect us all the time, even though we might not realize it. These problems slowly change how we live each day. Eventually, we notice that even people who aren't experts in this area can sense something about us. Some people have gut feelings about others and think it's extrasensory perception, but that might not always be true. The person observing has the ability to judge what they see. There's a good story about a famous bank teller who was great at spotting economic mistakes and fixing them. There was this guy who worked at a bank. Whenever someone came to cash a check, he could tell right away if they were dishonest or if the check wasn't real. He'd double-check everything, and he was always right. People wondered how he could spot a liar just by looking at them through the teller's window. He said it was simple. He could see certain signs like sweating or nervousness on their face. All these little clues helped him figure out the truth. But while others might tell us what they think of us, what really matters is what we think of ourselves. To understand our place in life, we could start by looking back on our experiences, like keeping a diary of our memories. We can learn about ourselves by looking at how we react to things that happen to us. Our immediate response to a situation shows who we are, even if we're not sure why we reacted that way. So if we think back over the years, we can see how we reacted to different situations we were in. For example, what did we think of school? Did we enjoy learning? Did we get along with our teachers? Did we make friends easily? What subjects did we like? Were we good at spelling but not at math? Did we enjoy reading? What kinds of books interested us? Did we like exciting stories or more serious ones? Were we into sports or romance novels? Thinking about these reactions can help us understand ourselves better. Think about why we turn our TVs on and off. These actions, along with others we do, say something about who we are. They also show that we have a strong tendency to focus on ourselves. Whatever we want seems important and right to us. We often don't think about the need to change or improve parts of ourselves that aren't so great. We know we have the ability to observe and think, but we don't usually try to understand why we act the way we do. We don't know why we get angry quickly, feel sad for no reason, or get jealous of others. We don't realize that these are signs of our imperfect selves, growing up and making mistakes along the way. In the East, they use symbols called Mandalas to help people understand themselves better. We don't have that kind of help here, but we do feel the pain when we mess up. We can tell when we're in trouble because of something we did, but we don't like admitting that we're responsible. Inside us, there's a complex mix of emotions and pressures that we have to deal with throughout our lives. Ignoring these truths can make us sick and unhappy. These are tough things to face, and many of us try to avoid dealing with them by blaming others instead of looking at ourselves. When people around us hurt us, we tend to react by hurting them back. And if they keep hurting us, our reactions can get even worse. And soon we're hurting more than they are because we haven't dealt with our feelings properly. In Buddhism, they talk about something called a mandala, which is like a big pattern that represents order and balance in life. It's a beautiful and meaningful symbol that teaches us important lessons. A balanced mandala reflects a balanced life, and someone who balances their life gains inner strength and wisdom that they couldn't get any other way. In the West, people usually look to others for guidance, but in the East, they believe in looking within themselves to find the causes of their problems. Everything in our lives has a purpose. The good parts show that we've figured some things out, while the problems challenge us to find new ways of dealing with them. In Europe, especially during the 17th century, there were books called emblem books that taught important lessons. They were probably made for kids to learn from. Each book had pictures with a short story or poem that taught a moral lesson. Learning to read was a big deal back then, and these books made it more interesting because they taught about being good and wise. The pictures showed beautiful scenes that reminded us of the beauty in the world around us. Everything, like trees and flowers, is part of a bigger picture, like a puzzle. And it's not as hard as some people think to find this picture and understand it. For instance, an artist once explained to me how he created beautiful pictures of nature that people like to hang in their homes. He said he would sit outside and sketch what he saw, like a farmhouse in the hills. Then, when he got back to his studio, he turned his sketch into a painting. As he painted, he felt like he was capturing a deeper truth from nature onto his canvas. Each artist sees the same landscape differently, and if you ask them why, they'll say they painted what they saw based on their own beliefs. Just like in life, we all interpret things based on our own values and experiences. We all interpret the things that happen to us, whether it's the sad times we go through, the failures we face, or the everyday challenges we encounter. We're all living on the same planet, even though some of us live in cities and some in the countryside. But most people see the world as a tough place, full of problems like wars, diseases, and crime. They think of these things as enemies that are always causing trouble, but many don't want to admit that they've contributed to the problems themselves, or that they're getting what they deserve. Nature doesn't let things stay peaceful and comfortable for too long. Life is full of challenges, and we'll always encounter obstacles along the way. Sometimes, when something happens to us that we don't understand or think we don't deserve, it might actually be a test or a lesson. In the past, people were tested on their beliefs and went through rituals to learn important lessons about life. They had teachers who helped them understand things and face challenges without giving up their values. But nowadays, it's easy to give in to temptation and avoid dealing with problems. We need to remember that every problem is an opportunity to learn and grow, not something to run away from. When we face a problem, we should tackle it directly and do something about it. This means using all the different abilities we have within ourselves. It might seem easier to handle a tough situation by hurting others or seeking revenge, but that's not right, and it only ends up hurting us in the long run. Instead, we should use our minds in a crisis to come up with solutions that are positive and helpful to everyone involved. We shouldn't just focus on our own feelings and ignore how our actions might affect others. We need to find fair solutions that we can be proud of and that treat everyone fairly, including ourselves. To do this, we have to look within ourselves and use all our abilities to find the right answers. Paula talks about 43 different abilities of the human brain, each with its own moral significance. Some of these abilities include respect and fighting spirit. Some make someone a good parent, while others make them good at serving the public. Some emphasize creativity, while others focus on science. When a person is born with a strong tendency towards one of these groups, they often end up working in that field. This can be good up to a point, but nature doesn't like it when people specialize too much. Nature allows specialization because there's enough time for people to try different things. But someone who lets their abilities control them too much often ends up disappointed, especially if they work in public service, because they might make life harder for others. So it's important for specialists to have a well-rounded education. In mandalas, there are 9 parts, each with its own meaning. They can be shown as separate pictures, but together they form a bigger picture. This bigger picture represents a balance within a person. It helps them live well with their specialization without becoming too focused on one thing. A person starts to belittle the accomplishments of others and thinks his own skills are the most important. He believes everything depends on him and what he's doing. This makes him become arrogant and selfish, and he loses the inspiration he needs to succeed. A scientist who lacks respect for spiritual matters is in a tough spot, but often doesn't realize it. As long as he only believes in material things, he'll keep missing out on what he's truly searching for. If he notices this about himself, it's time for him to stop pretending everything's fine and start thinking about making a change instead of blaming others for his problems. In our personal lives and relationships, families are like mandalas. Mandalas are symbols of unity and balance, and families represent these same ideas in society. A family is not just a group of people living together. It's the foundation of society, where new generations are born and where everyone grows and learns. Families are like the basic building blocks of society. Confucius, a famous philosopher, also emphasized this idea. He believed that strong families create a strong society. Families start with a simple unit like parents and children and grow into many different parts, all connected and working together. Each family member plays an important role, just like the different parts of a mandala. When everyone works together in harmony, the family creates a balanced and supportive environment. This helps each person to develop and thrive. In a family, we learn important values like love, respect, and cooperation. These values help us to build good relationships with others and contribute positively to society. Families teach us how to care for each other and work together, which are essential skills for a healthy and happy community. The family is like a small version of each person, because we all have the same 3 parts: our mind, our emotions, and our actions. Just like in a family, where the parents and child work together, these 3 parts of us should also work together. Confucius said that families represent not only personal balance and moral growth, but also the way things should work in society as a whole. When someone in a family acts like a bully, it ruins everything. Without teamwork, respect, honesty, and caring for each other, the family falls apart. This creates a negative situation like a monster of selfishness at the center of a Tibetan mandala. Selfishness turns good things into bad things, causing a lot of trouble. If everyone in a family only cares about themselves and ignores everyone else, it's a shame for both the family and society. In a good family, everyone helps each other and works towards common goals. Selfishness doesn't belong in a successful family. When family members care about each other and work together, the family can be happy and strong. I often hear stories about how selfishness ruins what could have been a happy and successful life. When someone in a family only thinks about themselves, it creates problems. It can cause fights and hurt feelings, and it stops the family from reaching their goals. In a family, everyone has a role to play. Parents take care of their children, and children can help their parents. Brothers and sisters can support each other. When everyone works together and thinks about the needs of others, the family becomes a safe and loving place. Selflessness means putting the needs of others before your own. It means sharing, listening, and helping out. When everyone in the family is selfless, they can overcome challenges and enjoy happy times together. There's another idea where a person puts a bad force in the center of their mandala. The Tibetans, Hindus, and some Japanese groups have these kinds of evil figures. One example is Fudo Mio, who looks scary and carries a lasso and a flaming sword. I once saw this figure in a temple and wondered why someone would worship it. A Japanese lady explained that she thought it was beautiful because it makes people good and stops them from being bad. It turns out that this figure represents the punishment we face when we do wrong. It's like nature's way of making sure we do the right thing. So even though it looks evil, it's really just a form of justice to help us stay on track. Always remember that when things go well, it's because of the good side of the same power. The so-called good aspects of power in mandala symbolism are actually about obeying rules. People often don't like to admit when they cause their own problems. Sometimes the problems are so obvious that they have to admit it. But often people are disobedient and stubborn while trying to seem righteous. They blame others for their problems instead of taking responsibility. Oriental philosophers say that no one can ruin a life except the individual themselves. They do this by not understanding themselves, ignoring important rules, and refusing to listen to good advice. Today, it's becoming clear that the best solution to many of the world's biggest problems is for individuals to solve their own problems. They need to find the truth about things they've misunderstood for a long time. The mandala also represents the power of the soul. What's inside a person? What divine force is behind their mixed and confused appearance? Well, every living thing has something incredible, life itself. We're alive, and where this life comes from isn't clear to most of us, but we have it. It's something amazing that even the most scientific person respects. This life gives us the power to see, think, hope, believe, and love. All these abilities are within us because of this spark of eternity inside ourselves. This part of eternity comes in many forms and ways, but it's always there. Some people express it through art, others by inventing useful things. This inner light is what makes everything living successful. We shouldn't waste or misuse this power. It's sacred. It's like the mystery of life itself. Life inside us is pure, unaffected by our thoughts, feelings, surroundings, or opinions. So when we grow and achieve, we're removing the obstacles that stop life from expressing itself fully. Life can't be beaten, but our minds and wrong actions can slow down our progress. So the mandala is like another symbol for us. It shows how things should be according to the power of life. It represents the potential for achievement that we all have, even though most of us don't realize it. Inside, it's like a beautiful drawing, perfectly balanced with no flaws. It's like a big flower unfolding, showing the universe on its petals. It's similar to Dante's vision in the Divine Comedy, where he sees angels singing on the petals of a divine rose. All these symbols suggest that inside us, there are answers to all our worries, fears, and sadness. We have the potential to grow and improve. Anything that fits the divine plan is within our reach, and as we use it wisely, we gain control over more things. But actually, the whole situation is one where calm understanding leads to a kind of deep thinking. In the East, followers sit quietly with mandalas and look at these pictures. They see their own lives reflected in them. Take, for example, a young monk who comes from a poor family. His family has always worked hard, and he might have a life ahead of him filled with labor. In many cases, monks spend only a few years in the monastery before returning to the outside world to fulfill their responsibilities as laypeople to their families, homes, and countries. They're not meant to spend their whole lives just praying for their own spiritual growth. They're supposed to serve others and, in doing so, connect with God. In this case, the young monk is sitting and studying a pattern, something that feels like a dream to him. As he looks at it, he sees his own inner life reflected. Philosophers like Pythagoras and the Neoplatonists talked a lot about beauty. They believed that the beauty in the human soul comes from its symmetry and perfection, like a beautiful crystal. By appreciating the beauty within, a person starts to see that same beauty reflected in the world around them. When the young monk meditates on the picture, he feels like the walls around him disappear and he sees the sky open up. Suddenly, he's surrounded by a peaceful feeling that seems to be everywhere. It's gentle, kind, and really amazing, but he knows he can't hold on to this feeling forever. It's like a flash of insight that comes and goes, just like when a German mystic had a moment of enlightenment while looking at a pewter plate. After a while, the feeling fades, and the monk goes back to the world he knows. But during this experience, he learns something important. He realizes that this beautiful feeling is just one part of a much bigger reality. It's like a piece of a puzzle that makes up the whole picture of life's beauty. With this kind of thinking, we can start to change how we see our own lives. We can see that a lot of suffering isn't necessary. The worst kind of suffering is not seeing the bigger picture, focusing only on the problems instead of aiming for the solutions. Plotinus, a famous philosopher, once said that only a few times in his life did he catch a glimpse of the true meaning of life. He described it as seeing infinite light and beauty spreading everywhere, with no end in sight. This amazing experience lasted only a moment, but it changed his life forever. He realized that the universe itself is a perfect and loving reality, where everything is complete and fulfilled. This discovery became the foundation of his life. Others, like him, also had similar experiences, though not as intense. Even a single moment of such insight can transform a person. When we begin to see the truth about life, the illusions and misunderstandings start to fade away. We see challenges as opportunities to grow, weaknesses as areas to improve, and fears as steps toward lasting hope. Within each of us, there are images that inspire us to imagine a better life. We all have things we read or think about that are important to us. Some of us are lucky to have people in our lives who inspire us. So as we go about our daily lives and try to do what's right, we should also think about these inspiring images. We may not achieve perfection right away, but with some effort and kindness, we can make things better. There are wonders all around us. Some people like to be in nature, while others prefer the city. But everyone is searching for something that fulfills them, and often that leads us back to nature and the simple things in life. The last idea here is about the conflict between what's made by people and what's natural. Most of our rules and ways of doing things are made up. They're like patches on top of old mistakes. We live in a world that we've created, a world where we're trying hard but often failing. This world is built on skills, science, profit, and wealth, but it's missing something important: love. It's missing that gentle, caring love that helps us understand the truth. There's a story from China about a wise person named Laozi. He was born poor and didn't have much schooling, but he was thoughtful. As a child, he sat on a hill and watched the world around him. He felt the peace and beauty of nature. This experience helped him see that nature is like a caring mother, looking after all living things. Later in life, he shared his wisdom through conversations and teachings. And this feeling was like wiping away all the excuses we make for our mistakes. Laozi believed the only way to explain a mistake is to stop making it, to not do it anymore. He thought our minds, with all their worries and troubles, find peace best in nature. Thoreau felt the same way at Walden Pond. Peace is found in nature's heart. Sitting under a tree or beside a stream in the forest, a person realizes they're part of something much bigger than themselves. They can't be as big as nature, but they can appreciate it, be thankful for it, and do their part to protect it from ignorance and fear. So many philosophers and great thinkers found peace in nature. They saw the mountains, valleys, hills, and seas as a big picture, a symbol of life's principles. Laozi said they were like a set of symbols, like mathematical equations, showing the truths of the universe. They believed math wasn't just numbers, it was a way to honor truth and reality, always striving for what's best for everyone. Laozi said life is like a river flowing into the sea, then rising again as vapor, falling as rain, and flowing back to the river, back to the sea. It's a cycle with nothing lost or added, just moving from infinity to infinity. In this cycle, humans are like little figures in a big world, travelers on a journey. Not too long ago, a Chinese art expert found a painting showing a man fishing. To his surprise, the fishing pole had a reel, a tool we thought was invented much later. But in all the paintings, the man never catches anything. He fishes without bait or hook. This became a symbol for Taoist philosophers. They seek the essence of life, like the fish in the ocean, but they don't try to capture, destroy, or own it. All these things shed light on an interesting topic. Each of us can look back on our lives from childhood to now as if it were a big picture unfolding over the years. From childhood to school, marriage, parenthood, work, old age, retirement, and grandchildren, all these experiences make up a grand picture. If we observe this picture carefully, we might discover something that serious scientists are now considering. If we live our lives from birth to retirement without breaking rules or harming ourselves unnecessarily, if we live peacefully in service, love, and friendship, we can overcome many of life's challenges. Living this way heals physical wounds and reduces mental and physical suffering caused by unfinished business. If we live peacefully and comfortably, we can pass into the next phase of life quietly and peacefully. Many illnesses come from one aspect of our personality, affecting a specific organ in our body. If we maintain peace of mind, we maintain our health. A healthy body and mind lead to a clear soul, enabling us to fulfill our purpose and embody universal friendship, affection, and understanding. I think we're all searching for solutions to our problems. We desperately want something to make our troubles go away and to understand why life is so uncertain. But it's not as bad as it seems. Laozi, a wise thinker from the past, realized that life goes on no matter what we do. We keep trying to improve, and when we do, many of our problems fade away. Our world today is filled with conflict and fear of enemies, but it's forgotten the importance of making friends and working together. Instead, we focus on competition and division, but we haven't discovered the healing power of unity and growth for everyone. In some teachings, like Shingon symbolism, it's said that a person can enter a symbolic world and become a part of it, although it might not happen literally. Similarly, Taoist monks tell a story about someone meditating on a picture of a door to another world, then disappearing through it. It's a nice story, but there's a deeper meaning behind it. If we really focus and study something for a long time, like a painted door, we might be able to go through it. But the door we're all aiming for is one that leads to a better life, more happiness, security, peace, and understanding. As we are in the middle of the 21st century, we can see that the world around us is like a big picture, full of symbols we need to understand. It's like a story with a lot of loose ends that need to be tied up. We're facing challenges that won't go away until we find solutions for them. We won't have peace in the world until people find peace in themselves. We need to imagine putting all the different parts together to make a better world. But for now, we keep living our lives, facing troubles, dealing with money and going through our routines. We're all just small parts of a big mystery, and everyone wants their own little world where they can do what they want. We can't physically bring things together, but our spirits can unite. Society won't be united until our hearts and minds are united in truth. Everything can be seen as a symbol, like in the emblems by Alciato. They're moral pictures with poems added, but the picture is the most important part. Quarles wrote a book in the 17th century that's great for kids. One of his symbols shows a bird in a cage, with a person outside trying to set it free. It's like us locking away our best selves because we're too selfish to change. But if we follow our inner voice, we'll be better. We don't need someone else to show us the way. We already have the key within ourselves. We can't just learn our way to salvation. We have to make the big choices within ourselves. Our inner light has been with us since the beginning, waiting for us to use it. In some Indian stories, there's a big focus on paying attention. When something unexpected happens, we should think about it. If it's good, we shouldn't just brush it off. We should appreciate it. If it's bad, we shouldn't see it as just bad luck. It's a challenge we need to think about. Every day, things happen that we don't like. We might face crime, selfishness, or betrayal, but we have to keep going. Each problem we face is like an illness. Some problems stick around for generations while others hit us all at once, but we have to find solutions and rise above the disappointments. If we don't understand our experiences properly, it can make life really bitter. People can end up suffering more and more as they get older, becoming antisocial and full of hurt. Some people, even when they retire and should be enjoying life, are still bitter because of past hurts. They hold on to grudges and can't find peace. This is a big problem. When we get our life sorted out, one immediate reward is feeling happy with ourselves, especially after retiring from work. Even though we might slow down a bit as we age, if we have a good inner life, we'll stay cheerful and appreciate the good things. We'll spread joy wherever we go. Most importantly, we'll be at peace with ourselves. And as we spend more time with ourselves, we'll realize that a lot of our troubles come from our attitude. We often struggle because we can't forgive our enemies or appreciate our friends. So if we focus on our inner life, it can help us live longer and feel more fulfilled. We'll leave this world knowing we've helped others and made it a better place. But those who only care about material things struggle the most. In Indian teachings, the material world is called avicii, and in Plato's writings, it's like his idea of Hades. Plato said we don't go to Hades after we die. We're already there from the moment we're born. We need to understand that many people in this world are dealing with their own problems and might try to bring others down with them. It's like living in a shadowy world, as Plato described. Our actions and attitudes determine our fate, like heaven for those who live well with themselves, and hell for those who struggle. The cycle of life is about cause and effect. If we make mistakes and don't fix them, we carry that burden with us. I've been with people in their final moments, and it's fascinating to see how things clear up for them. Suddenly, the things they cared about, like work or money, don't matter anymore. They realize they've been too busy to enjoy life or make good choices. One man, nearing the end of his life, wished he could start over. He'd focus more on being a good person and less on chasing material success. Sometimes we don't leave this world any wiser than when we entered it. But that's okay because what we leave with might be what we come back with. If we've discovered what really matters in life and started to let go of useless things, then we're already getting wiser. We can start becoming wiser right now. So before our life stories are fully written, we have a chance to live wonderfully now. We can see ourselves fixing our mistakes and building a better future. It's a good thing, because we'll all get the chance to improve our lives. Nothing can stop it from happening. Eventually, we'll get everything we need, and each time we come back, we'll bring more with us, getting a bit more understanding, being a bit more patient, and having a little more insight make everything worth it. It's the main reason to behave well. If we deserve better, we'll get it. We can start deserving it now, and it might mean that some sad things we expected won't happen because we're not the same person we used to be. The Japanese artist Hokusai was famous and changed his name a lot during his life. He thought changing his name might help him live longer. It might sound strange, but each time he changed his name, it confused the god of death, Emma. When Hokusai used a different name, Emma couldn't find him in his book, so he didn't call for him right away. This helped Hokusai live a long time. Eventually, though, Emma found out his real name. But instead of punishing him, he asked Hokusai to paint new screens for his palace in the afterlife. Hokusai was happy because he had an important job even after he died. As a Buddhist, he probably believed in coming back to life again someday. So, when we gather all these happy little moments together, they create a better life than one filled with bad memories. Let's focus on the good things and the opportunities we've been given, instead of dwelling on regrets. We shouldn't believe that others are treating us badly unless we're treating ourselves badly. Others might try to mistreat us, but if we know we're doing the right thing, their actions won't affect us. We only suffer when we agree with them. Each person can solve their own problems, and all these little moments contribute to this idea, a beautiful pattern that shapes our lives. Eventually, we'll each have a life that resembles a magnificent stained glass window in a cathedral, where all our dreams come true. Thank you for listening.